How will the Minnesota Vikings fare in the 2021 season? Will fourth quarter Kirk Cousins himself show up in the other three quarters? Well, we're going to go through and break down the roster of the Vikings. I'll give you my projected starters, and then I'm going to give you a prediction on how they will fare this upcoming season. What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Barushmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro, and subscribe. That means hitting that red subscribe button, especially if you want to see the content. I put out a lot of draft content, but a lot of football content in general. Leave that thumbs up if you appreciate the content. And as always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love indulging in the nice football discourse we have going on down there. But let's go ahead. Let's get into the nitty gritty. We're going to be taking a look at the roster. This is for all intents and purposes, a very pro style offense. And they really utilize outside zone run-in concepts. Last year, they decided to incorporate a bit more of the inside zone blocking concepts that played a bigger role. But of course, this team probably utilizes their fullback more than any other team. The fullback just last year, CJ Ham, he had over 400 snaps. On 80% of their runs, they incorporated a fullback. So we know that CJ Ham, he has a very, very big role in this offense. And, I mean, they might be working with one of the best running backs in the league in Dalvin Cook. I love Dalvin Cook. He's been very healthy the past couple of years, so for the most part. And, I mean, what more is there to say about him? He's a home run threat. Alexander Madison is a more than capable running back, too. And they also bring in the rookie out of Iowa State, who's very similar to I would say to Madison in terms of his skill set. I think a guy like Amir Abdullah could make the roster for special teams, and he's got a bit of the pass catching ability, but obviously Cook does that. Cook's going to see a bulk of the work there. They might have the best 1-2 punch in the league when it comes to their outside receivers. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. Justin Jefferson just blew up the league last year. Looked like the best wide receiver in last year's class. And Thielen, I mean, there really isn't much to say. And honestly, this team doesn't really utilize a slot receiver. I mean, even if they have a third wideout, it's typically their tight end in Irv Smith Jr. He's a very, very good receiving tight end, but a very capable blocker at that. Speaking of which, I really think we should see, with Kyle Rudolph now gone, that's like over 500 snaps up for grabs. So it's going to probably fall on whoever the tight end 2 there is, being Tyler Conklin, the former fifth-round pick. I think it was this is 4th year. So I expect him to take a bigger role on offense. They also, their 7th round, I think it was 7th round pick, Zach Davidson. Big potential receiving threat, but a guy that played like at D3, so he's more of a developmental guy at this point. I just thought we should talk about them. But they did bring in some, I mean, obviously they got BC Johnson, he's fine. KJ Osborne was an interesting pickup last season out of Miami. I think the 2 names that, well, I guess 3 names that really what's the word I'm looking for that catch my eye, there we go, is of course you got WAP Filior, who is more of a slot guy only. Amir Smith Marcette, who again another guy that kind of liked operating out of the slot there at Iowa. But he brings some very good return skills. I think he stays on the roster just because of that factor. And then Blake Proel, who is he's a good possession receiver, whether it's on the outside or in the slot. Out of ECU, he gives you that capability. So the receiver aspect of this, I mean, they got the 1-2 punch. That's really all that they need. Irv Smith Jr. Irv Smith Jr. is a fine compliment, whether he's moving out to the slot or staying in line. And then Conklin expecting him to get more of a, hey, you're getting more snaps. But I mean, he already played over 400 last year, so if he plays over 500, that's no biggie either. But this team should run the ball and run the ball efficiently. Where they'll be very successful is the play action game. Kirk Cousins, he really, really gets helped out by the play action game. Just being able to set up the run and then just go. No team in the NFL, I think, over the last couple of years does play action better than the Minnesota Vikings. And Kirk Cousins just really, really does well in that role. But with that being said, they're going to need a lot of help from the line. This offensive line has kind of been the Achilles heel to the offense, and it looks like they get a big boost. I think they drafted particularly well, being able to trade back and still get Christian Darrisaw, who I thought was a top 15 pick. Phenomenal. Wyatt Davis, they were able to sit on him until the third round. I thought that was a great pickup. Really good. The thing is, because I mean, they're already kind of Brian O'Neill, one of the most underrated tackles in all of the league, in my opinion. You got Garrett Bradberry, who's a fine center. I know Vikings fans love him, but I don't think you can really tell he struggles with NFL strength, and a lot of people try to attribute that to, the guards next to him. They really didn't help him out. Listen, the guy lost one-on-ones a lot. Typically to stronger interior players. I don't know what to tell you. His win rate against the more meatier, the more powerful interior players, it's not great. It's not good. So I don't know what to tell you. But and then Ezra Cleveland, he's moving to the left side at left guard, so he actually played particularly well last season when asked to step in at right guard, so I expect that not to change. They brought in Mason Cole, come on. I don't know, I just caught my eye. So the question is, because with Wyatt Davis and with Christian Darrisaw, Zimmer said he expects both those guys to be competing for starting jobs. For me, Christian Darrisaw, it's not even a question. They don't have another guy who can play tackle efficiently, at least to the degree that I think Darrisaw can. So Darrisaw should be an instant starter. I think it'll be an interesting camp battle for who plays right guard, because you would think Wyatt Davis is kind of the favorite. But keep in mind, man, he's a 6-year vet. Guy, I know his play wasn't great last year, but a guy, he does have the experience. You also got Drew Samia, who is a former fourth rounder that they had going into his third or third season. So there is competition there. He's gonna have to win that battle, especially over a guy like Dozer. I think Dozer might have the inside shot, just being a guy that they're more familiar with. But I really think Wyatt Davis is that stinking good. He should win this easy, and instantly this line looks a heck of a lot better. So I think this offense is going to be way more explosive. I think we're going to get one of those Kirk Cousins years where it's oh wow, he looks like a top 10 quarterback. For me, Kirk Cousins is he is that perennial. You get what I'm saying? 12 to 15 quarterback. I would throw him in that Derek Carr category where it's by himself, he's not going to he can't carry this team. But you put him in a good situation around very competent or very good talent, then yes, he will come in, he will produce. And he has that. But I like the addition of Kellen Mond a lot. I think Kellen Mond kind of puts Kirk Cousins on a ticker. Now the Vikings don't have to bend the knee to Kirk Cousins. We have nothing in place for the future, so we have to bring Kirk Cousins back. We have to. We're not at a place where we're going to be getting a top 10 quarterback in the draft, so we have to bring him back. I think Kellen Mond, at least for the most part, won't allow Kirk Cousins to fleece the Vikings for money in the future, so I like that a lot. So, again, the offense looks beautiful. So taking a look at the defense, this is Mike Zimmer's defense. For all intents and purposes, Mike Zimmer's defense, what do you expect? Well, you expect, obviously, it's a base 4-3. You know Zimmer's known for his press zone defense. They like running a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 3. And there's some additions that might lead you to think that they might play more man, like Patrick Peterson coming to town. You got Bashar Breland, who's mainly been a man coverage corner throughout his whole career. But I don't think the addition of those guys will change Zimmer's approach to how he coaches the defense. Last year, this team ran man coverage just on 15%. Or just ran man coverage 15% of the time last year. We might see a little bump in that, but I don't think we'll see much of a bump. Especially, I mean, they're bringing in Cameron Bynum, who he's a press zone corner. He's a press zone corner. That's just what he is. Now, over the years, we were kind of used to Zimmer being a very blitz happy coach. That's not really the case as of last couple of seasons. They really don't they don't bring in extra pressure, except for mainly third down, and even then he's been doing that a lot less recently. So they're really gonna have to get pressure through their front 4, and I think just based on how he's drafted recently, that it kind of leads you to believe, yes, he wants to be getting more pressure from his front 4. Being like he came in this past season, drafted Patrick Jones in the 3rd round, drafted Janarius Robinson in the 4th. He brought in Jalen Twyman in the 6th. I mean, even going back to the year before, DJ Wonham being a 4th round pick in the 2020 draft. It just leads me to believe that he wants these guys to get pressure on their own without having to bring extra pressure. And honestly, I think that's probably the best place to start right now is the defensive line. How will it look this year? Will they have a competent pass rush on the other side of Danielle Hunter, who's just been a monster? He is easily their probably best player on defense, which you can make a case for Harrison Smith as well. You could honestly make a case for Eric Kendricks too. They're really set at all levels. But they bring I think we're going to be seeing a revolving door for the most part on the other side of Hunter. Because, I mean, they bring back Stephen Weatherly, who the first 4 years of his career was with Minnesota. I obviously talked about the guys that they drafted. And, I mean, they have Wonham, who he produced extremely well last year, but it was more in a rotation role. And I think that's probably what best suits him currently, is him being more of a rotation player. So maybe we see Weatherly, just because they're very familiar with him, get a bulk majority of the snaps, or maybe one of these guys, Robinson or Jones, they kind of emerge there. And then going to the interior, Dalvin Tomlinson, you got Michael Pierce, you got just 2 big boys that honestly could play nose. And that was something that Zimmer he would like to have. He liked having a nose, and then a guy that could kind of operate as a 3-tech. I don't think either of those guys do that. You just got 2 big meaty boys now playing there on the interior of the line. I think what's interesting is what Sheldon Richardson's role here will be on the defense, mainly playing as a 3-4 end, kind of like a 5-tech, though in Cleveland last year he played more of the 3-tech role. He could come in and kind of be that penetrator on third downs, but I really think like Sheldon Richardson's gonna have a big presence on this defense. Like, the guy hasn't played less than 600 snaps in a season throughout his career. I mean, just coming off of last year in Cleveland, he played over 900 snaps. So it's been rumored, it's been talked about that Richardson might take some snaps on the outside. So that might be even something that should be interesting. So I really think he's going to be very involved here. They also got James Lynch, who's more of a 3-tech, guy that played that like 3-4 role at Baylor. So, and Amon Watt, who a guy I was pretty high on, they drafted a couple of seasons ago out of Akron. There's a lot of good good players on this squad. You can even bring up Hercules. Like, it'll be interesting to see how many people they keep. I mean, oh, dude, they even have Kenny Willix. Wow, man, there's a lot of people, a lot of guys on this squad. Like, well. There's a lot of talent, but there's that question: who's the other edge rusher? And I think we might be surprised to see how they utilize Sheldon Richardson this season. Moving to the linebacker core is actually very good, very, very good. They have Eric Kendricks, they have Anthony Barr. Both are Eric Kendricks. You can make a case he might be one of the best linebackers in the league. Anthony Barr is very good in that role. So much so he decided not to go to the Jets just a year or two ago, just because he's so comfortable in his role there in Zimmer's defense. They just drafted Chaz Surratt, who is going to be a guy that they're gonna probably bring along slowly. Maybe a guy that comes in on third downs if they want to bring extra pressure and does that. Like Troy Dye, also kind of that lengthy opportunist type, very similar to Surratt in that regard. Ryan Conley was a guy with the Giants. I mentioned in the Giants but didn't even know that he wasn't even on the roster anymore. Who's a quality depth piece. Nick Vigil is quality depth piece at that. So, low key, this linebacker core is actually pretty darn good. So the secondary is probably the biggest question, because they bring in Patrick Peterson, but then the question is who's going to play cornerback too? Because we know they also bring back Mackenzie Alexander. It should go without saying that he's probably going to be the slot corner there. It just makes sense. So who's going to be cornerback too? Who? My money would be on, obviously, Cameron Dantzler. I thought he played particularly well last year. He showed some flashes. He did deal with injuries and the whole Rona last season as well. He wasn't able to participate in minicamp because of an injury. So we'll know a little bit more when training camp comes around at the end of the month. But I mean, my money is on Dantzler. I mean, obviously with Jeff Gladney, it's all a question mark because he's going through legal troubles. I mean, my money's on him not even playing next year. They bring in Bashar Breland, who honestly, I think he's more, because I talked about how he mainly has been a man coverage corner his whole career. You can date that back to when he was with Washington. But I really think that he's just insurance. He's just a depth piece at this point. I mean, the other guys that are back there, Harrison Hand, he saw some time last year as a rookie. But I think, again, he's just a depth piece. Chris Boyd, more of a special teams guy, but a guy they drafted a couple of years ago. He saw a little bit of time last year, more than Hand, but again, he's more of a depth piece. It has to be Dantzler, right? Really, I think the battle is just Dantzler versus Breland, which will be interesting, but I think Dantzler wins that. And then obviously at this, I didn't even talk about Cameron Bond. Are they really moving him to safety? That'd be interesting if they are. I haven't seen anything on that, but I'm intrigued. When it comes to the secondary, I mean, the safety position, Harrison Smith, one of the best safeties in the league. Year in, year out, a top 5 safety for all intents and purposes. I think Xavier Woods was an excellent pickup, a very cheap pickup, but I think he's a quality starter. He could really, he's a plug and play guy. While he's not a Pro Bowler or anything, I think you come in and expect him to at least do his job. And that's what he did in Dallas. This defense should be very good. I do kind of question how good will the pass rush be this year, but there is a wealth of guys that could step up. So that's something I'm very intrigued by. So let's go ahead and take a look at my starters of course, starting with the offense. Now, when I do projected starters, it's based on who's going to see the field the most, who's going to be the leader in the snap count. It's not based on base defenses and such. So, just so you know. I got Kirk Cousins, obviously starting quarterback, Dalvin Cook at running back. You got Jefferson and Thielen. I listed 2 tight ends here because, well, they hardly used a third receiver. They would opt for 2 tight end sets the majority of the time. So Irv Smith Jr., and like I said, even when they go 3 wide, like it's Irv Smith Jr. that's kicking out there. So Irv Smith Jr., Tyler Conklin, like I said, should see a bigger role in the offense with Kyle Rudolph now gone. Christian Darrisaw, Ezra Cleveland, Garrett Bradberry, Wyatt Davis. I'm telling you, he's winning that job. This kid has a chance to be special. I thought very highly of him before the 2020 season there in college football, and things didn't necessarily go his way, but I thought he was definitely worth the second rounder. Ended up getting him in the 3rd round. And then Brian O'Neill. So I think the offense looks particularly good. And then defense. You may notice that I have 3 interior linemen. I think there's no way Richardson doesn't play more than 600 snaps, and technically that would mean he'd be on the field more than whoever they got playing the second edge rusher. So, and if that ends up being a revolving door, then yes, Richardson's going to be on the field more than whoever the second edge rusher is. But I got Hunter, I got Tomlinson, I got Pierce, and then Richardson. Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, Patrick Peterson, Cameron Dantzler. I've loved Cameron Dantzler since he was a prospect. I thought it was a great pick by the Vikings. And in hindsight now, probably a better pick than Jeff Gladney. Jeff Gladney couldn't even win an outside job. He was seeing the field most of the time in the slot. Like, you couldn't even beat out, well, like, when was Cameron Dantzler selected? I think it was a 3rd round, right? Yeah, he was in the 3rd round. So, you just got to see my predictions early. It's fine. We're almost done with the stars here. Then Alexander being the slot, Xavier Woods, and then Harrison Smith. Predictions, you kind of saw it. 9 and 8. This is actually good enough in my predictions to make the playoffs in the NFC. I think this team, they're a playoff contender. They feel like a playoff contender through and through. I have them having a 6-2 record against losing teams. 3-6 against winning. It's really tough to see them unseating the Packers in the NFC North if Aaron Rodgers is playing. And then on top of that, they're facing the NFC West, which is probably one of the toughest divisions in football, with the Cardinals, Seahawks, Rams, and Niners. If all those teams stay healthy, they're above 500 squads, so that's tough. And then they gotta travel to the NFC North, which is probably the AFC North, which is probably the NFC West of the AFC. If you followed me on that tangent, because the Browns, banger team, the Ravens, banger team. The Steelers, they're going to be competitive, especially they faced, Steelers weren't so hot their last 6 games. Maybe in week 14, they're still competitive. Maybe. But then on top of that, you got the Bengals team, which who knows what Bengals team we're going to see this year. Like, I don't think they're necessarily a winning team now, but that's a team trending in the right direction. And then throw in, you got to face the Panthers, which that's a team to watch. And then the Cowboys, which with the healthy Dak Prescott, that'd be tough, yo. Yeah, and then you got to imagine the Bears are going to be a very competitive team. I got them losing to the Bears later on in the season here just because it's a home game, and on top of that, I think Justin Fields is the quarterback at that point. And that he's going to be a tough quarterback to have to play against. But I have them beating the Lions twice. I just think the Lions are terrible. So they go 4-2 in their division. It'll be interesting to see, like I said, 9-8. I think it's kind of like that's where it's the medium. While I think their ceiling is they could be a 10-win team, maybe even 11 wins. Their floor, I would put it in that 6 to 7 game window, depending on injuries and whatnot. The Vikings last season, how did they go? Standings. They were a 7-win team, so yeah, I would put their floor at about six wins. So it's right there in the middle between 6 and 11, 9 and 8. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. I think this is a very good prediction, if I do say so myself. But yeah, so I guess that's it for the video. Go ahead, let me know what you think in the comment section below. As of course, I'm covering 32 teams here. As a fan, you're following your team, so maybe you got a little more insight to how it's ran, or specifically what's going on with the position battles and whatnot. I look forward to hearing about that. But as always, till next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.